Captain Lisa Morgan stood on the bridge of the stellar dawn watching the stars blur past as her ship moved through space at incredible speed. The year was 2387, and humanity had finally learned to travel faster than light across the galaxy. This was their first real mission to explore unknown worlds and find new forms of life. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft hum of computers and engines. Lisa had been a starship captain for 10 years, but this mission felt different. They were not just exploring empty space anymore. They were looking for aliens, and today they might actually find some commander. Amy Brooks walked up to Lisa holding a datapad in her hands. Amy was the ship's military advisor, and she always looked serious about everything. Her job was to keep the crew safe. If they met hostile aliens, Amy spoke in a low voice so only Lisa could hear. "We are getting a strange signal from the next star system. It sounds like a distress call, but the language is completely unknown." "To our computers," Lisa nodded, and told Amy to put the signal on the main screen. The bridge filled with strange sounds that seemed to come from no human throat. The words were harsh and full of clicking noises, but underneath the alien speech, they could hear something else: fear and desperation. Lisa made her decision, set course for the signal. "We need to help whoever is sending this message." Amy looked worried. "Captain, we do not know what we might find out there. This could be a trap." Lisa understood Amy's concern, but she also knew that humanity's first contact with aliens needed to be one of helping, not fighting. If we want other species to trust us, we must show them our best qualities first. The stellar dawn dropped out of faster than light. Travel near a large red planet. 3 massive alien ships hung in space near the planet. The ships looked like they were built for war, with thick armor and many weapons. The largest ship was black with red markings, and it was 10 times bigger than the stellar dawn. Amy checked her instruments. "Captain, the distress signal is coming from inside the big black ship. There are also life signs that do not match the shipbuilders. Someone else is trapped in there." Before Lisa could respond, her communication officer spoke up. "Captain, we are being contacted by the alien ships. They want to talk." Lisa straightened her uniform and told her crew to open the channel. The main screen flickered and showed the interior of the alien ship. A massive creature appeared on screen that made several crew members step backward. Alien stood nearly 8 feet tall, with 6 arms and scales that covered his entire body. His eyes were yellow and seemed to glow in the dark. His face was long, like a reptile, with sharp teeth visible when he spoke. The creature wore armor made of black metal with red designs. The alien spoke, and their computers translated his words into English. "I am Warlord Zefker, of the Kethmari Empire. You are in our territory, and your ship will surrender immediately." Lisa kept her voice calm and steady. "I am Captain Lisa Morgan of Earth. We received a distress signal and came to help. We mean no harm to you or your people." Zefkar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Help? You think your tiny ship can help the mighty Kethmari? You humans are either very brave or very foolish." Lisa noticed that Zefkar seemed genuinely curious about her response, rather than simply angry. Most warlords would have attacked immediately, but he was talking. "What is the distress signal?" Zefkar's expression changed slightly. "We have captured several ships from a species called elves. They tried to resist our expansion into this sector. Now they serve us as workers and servants. Some of them still cry for help even though they know no one will." Amy moved closer to Lisa and whispered, "Captain, those are not workers, those are slaves. We cannot let this continue." Lisa knew Amy was right, but they were badly outnumbered. The 3 alien warships could destroy the stellar dawn easily. If fighting started, she needed to be smart about this. Lisa looked back at Zefkar. "Perhaps we could meet in person to discuss this situation. I am sure we can find a solution that benefits both our tilted his head like he was thinking about something he had never considered before. "You would come aboard my ship, knowing that I could capture you?" Lisa nodded yes, because that is what honorable people do when they want to make peace. For several long seconds, Zefkar stared at Lisa through the screen. His yellow eyes seemed to be studying every detail of her face. Finally, he spoke again. "Very well. Captain Morgan, you may bring one guard and visit my ship, but know that if you try anything foolish, you will join the elves in their cells. Lisa turned to Amy. You are coming with me as my military advisor. Amy shook her head. Captain, this is too dangerous. Let me go in your place. Lisa smiled at her friend. No, Amy, this is something I must do myself if we want to make a good first impression with an alien species. Their leader needs to meet our leader. 1 hour later, Lisa and Amy stood in the shuttle bay of Zefkar's warship, preparing to meet the alien warlord face to face. The shuttle bay was enormous and filled with strange alien technology. Hundreds of Kethmari soldiers lined the walls, watching the two humans with curiosity and suspicion. Zefkar walked toward them, flanked by his personal guards. Lisa noticed that he moved with the grace of a trained warrior, despite his massive size. His 6 arms could probably move faster than any human could react. Welcome to my ship, Captain Morgan, Zefkar said, as he stopped a few feet away from Lisa. This is the first time I have met a human. You are smaller than I expected, but you do not show fear. That is interesting. Lisa looked around the shuttle bay and saw something that made her heart sink. In cages along the walls were dozens of female elves. They were clearly prisoners, and many looked injured or sick. The elves had pointed ears and delicate features that made them look almost magical, but their eyes showed pain and hopelessness. Hefke noticed Lisa looking at the prisoners. Those are my newest acquisitions. The elves thought they could hide on their forest worlds forever. They were wrong. Lisa forced herself to stay calm, while inside she felt anger growing. These beings were clearly intelligent and did not deserve to be treated as property. However, she knew that showing her true feelings now would end any chance of helping them. Perhaps we could discuss a trade agreement, Lisa suggested. Our species might have technology or resources that would be valuable to your empire. Kar's eyes seemed to light up with interest. Now that is an idea worth exploring. Come, we will talk in my private chambers, and you can tell me more about these humans who travel between the stars. 3 days had passed since Captain Lisa Morgan first met Warlord Zefkar, and the situation aboard his warship had become more complex than anyone expected. Lisa and Amy had been given guest quarters while they discussed a possible alliance between humans and the Kethmari Empire. Mee Brooks spent most of her time secretly gathering information about the alien ship and its crew. She used her military training to observe guard patterns and security systems, but what she discovered in the ship's data files made her blood run cold. May found records showing that Zefkar had destroyed over 40 different worlds in the past 5 years. Each planet had been home to millions of beings from various species. The records showed detailed plans for each invasion and the complete elimination of any resistance. The aliens called him the Soul Render because he did not just conquer planets, he erased entire civilizations from existence. Meanwhile, Lisa continued her diplomatic meetings with Zefkar. In his private chambers, the alien warlord seemed genuinely fascinated by human culture and asked countless questions about Earth and human society. Zefkar would pace around his large chamber using all 6 arms to gesture as he spoke. Tell me more about this concept you call sacrifice. Why would a human choose to die for others when it gains them nothing? Lisa tried to explain human values in ways the alien could understand. Because some things are more important than our individual survival. Our families, our friends, our beliefs, these things give life, meaning. The warlord stopped pacing and stared at Lisa with his glowing yellow eyes. This makes no sense to me. In Kethmari culture, the strong survive and the weak serve. The idea of helping those who cannot help themselves seems like a waste of resources. Realized she was seeing glimpses of something beneath Zefkar's fearsome exterior. He asked these questions like someone who had never been taught that other ways of living exist. Another part of the ship, the captured elfwoman tried to survive each day with dignity intact. Lirelei Moonwhisper had been a princess on her forest world before Zefkar's forces captured her. She was tall and graceful with long silver hair and green eyes that still held defiance. Despite her captivity, Lirelei often spoke quietly with the other prisoners, trying to keep their spirits up. Even though they were trapped, she reminded them that their people were still free on other worlds, and that rescue might come someday. Myra Starweaver was Liralay's closest friend and former royal guard. She had short brown hair and scars from fighting the Kethmari invasion. Mira spent her time watching the guards and looking for any chance to escape or fight back. One evening, Mira whispered to Liralay, "I have been counting the guards and studying their routines. Tonight might be our best chance to try and escape." Liralay shook her head. "No, my friend, if we fail they will punish all the other prisoners. We must wait for a better opportunity." But their conversation was overheard by a Kethmari guard, who reported it to his superior the next morning. Zefker himself came to the prison area to deal with the potential escape attempt. The other prisoners expected brutal punishment, because that was Zefker's reputation throughout the galaxy. But instead, the Warlord simply looked at Liralay and Mira for a long moment. "You planned to escape," Zefker stated rather than Liralay lifted her chin proudly. "Yes, we did. Freedom is the right of all thinking." Zefkar's expression was unreadable as he studied the elf princess. "Your spirit is strong but foolish. There is nowhere to run on my ship. Then kill us and be done with it," Liralay replied. "But we will never stop trying to be free." Brooks had been watching this confrontation from a distance. She expected Zefker to become violent, as his reputation suggested. Instead, the alien warlord did something that surprised everyone. The punishment for attempting escape is normally death, Zefker announced, "but you are too valuable to waste. You will be moved to more secure cells and given extra work duties as." Zefker turned to leave. Liralay called out to him, "Why did you spare us?" The warlord paused without turning around. "Because Captain Morgan has been teaching me that strength can take many forms. Your determination to stay free despite impossible odds shows a different kind of power." After Zefker left, Amy made her way back to Lisa's quarters. She needed to share what she had discovered about the aliens' true history. "Captain, we need to talk privately," Amy said. As soon as she entered the room, Lisa could tell from Amy's expression that the news was serious. "What did you find?" Amy activated a small device that would prevent their conversation from being overheard. "I accessed their military records, Captain. This alien has committed genocide on a scale we can barely imagine. 40 worlds completely destroyed, billions of beings killed. He really is the monster they call him." Lisa sat down heavily as the weight of this information hit her. "But I have been talking with him for days. Amy, he asks questions about human values like someone who genuinely wants to understand. He seems to be changing." Amy shook her head. "People like that do not change, Captain. They just get better at hiding what they really are. We need to find a way to rescue those elf prisoners and get out of here before he decides we are no longer useful." That same evening, Zefker sat alone in his private chambers, staring out at the stars through a large window. He had been thinking about his conversations with Lisa Morgan and feeling confused by emotions he had never experienced before. A soft chime indicated someone was requesting entry. Zefker granted permission, and his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Vorth, entered the room. Vorth was smaller than Zefker, but equally fierce, with 4 arms instead of 6, and darker scales. His loyalty to the old Kethmari ways was absolute. "My lord, the troops are becoming concerned about your recent decisions. Some wonder why you have not simply taken the human ship and added its crew to our slave collection." Zefker turned from the window to face his subordinate. "The humans interest me, Vorth. Their technology is primitive, but their ideas about cooperation and sacrifice could be useful." Vorth's expression showed disapproval. "Useful how, my lord? These concepts make beings weak and unwilling to fight, perhaps," Zefker replied, "but they also create loyalty that fear cannot match. I have watched how the elf prisoners support each other even in captivity. That kind of unity could make an army much stronger." Left the chamber still unconvinced, but Zefker continued staring out at the stars, wondering if there might be another way to build an empire besides fear and destruction. The human captain had planted seeds of doubt that were growing into something he did not yet understand. 2 weeks had passed since the humans arrived, and the Kethmori fleet was now approaching the elf homeworld. Of Sylvander, Lisa Morgan found herself in an impossible situation as she sat in Zefkar's war room looking at holographic displays of the beautiful forest planet below. The planet was covered in vast green forests, with crystal-clear rivers running between ancient trees. Cities built high in the treetops sparkled like jewels in the morning sunlight. Millions of elves lived peaceful lives down there, completely unaware that death was approaching from Space FCAR. Stood beside Lisa, pointing at different locations on the planet with one of his 6 arms. These are their main population centers. We will strike all of them simultaneously. To prevent any organized resistance, Lisa forced herself to stay calm, while inside her heart was breaking. The invasion plan would kill countless innocent beings, including children and families, who had done nothing wrong. She needed more time to find a way to stop this massacre. What about prisoners? Lisa asked, trying to sound like she supported the plan. Surely some of the elves would be valuable as worker. Shefker nodded thoughtfully. Yes, we will take the young and healthy ones. The rest are not worth the resources needed to transport them. Mamie Brooks had been working with Myra Starweaver to prepare for what they all knew was coming. Amy had secretly provided Myra with small tools and information about the ship's layout, while pretending to just be making friendly conversation. Mira had used this help to organize the other elf prisoners into groups that could act quickly when the time came. She also shared everything she knew about Sylvander's defenses and population centers with Amy, hoping that somehow this information could be used to save her people. In another part of the ship, Lirley Moonwhisper had been having strange conversations with Warlord Zefkar. The alien leader had begun visiting the prison areas more frequently, asking the elf princess questions about her world and her people. Why do your people choose to live in harmony with nature instead of conquering it? Zefkar asked during one of these visits. Lirley looked up at him from her cell floor where she had been sitting in meditation. Because we understand that we are part of nature, not separate from it. When we harm the forest, we harm ourselves. When we protect it, we become stronger. This answer seemed to puzzle Zefkar greatly. In Kethmori culture, we take what we need and destroy what opposes us. It has made us the most powerful species in this sector of the galaxy. But at what cost? Lirley asked quietly. You have power over others, but do you have peace within yourself? Fifkar stared at her for a long moment before turning and walking away without another word, but Lirley could see that her question had affected him deeply. Meanwhile, Lisa was becoming increasingly desperate as the invasion fleet moved closer to Sylvander. She had tried every diplomatic approach she could think of, but Zefkar seemed determined to proceed with his attack plan during their latest meeting. Lisa decided to take a more direct approach. Zefkar, what if I told you there was a way to gain control of this sector without destroying the elf homeworld? The alien warlord turned all 4 of his yellow eyes toward her. Explain this idea. Captain Morgan. Lisa took a deep breath, knowing she was taking a huge risk. If you spare Sylvander and treat the elves as allies instead of slaves, they could provide you with valuable resources and knowledge. Willingly forced labor is never as productive as willing. Kuparashan Zefkar walked slowly around his war room, considering her words. But if I show mercy to one species, others will think I have become weak. They will challenge my authority. That evening, Amy found Lisa in their shared quarters, looking exhausted and worried. Amy had made her own decision about what needed to happen. Captain, I have been thinking about our situation, Amy said. We cannot let this invasion happen. We have to find a way to warn the elves and help them prepare their defenses. Lessa nodded. I know, Amy, but if we are caught sabotaging their plans, Zefkar will kill us and probably execute all the elf prisoners as punishment. Tommy sat down across from Lisa. Then we need to be very careful about how we do this. I have been working with Mira and some of the other prisoners. They are ready to act when we give the signal. The next day brought an unexpected development that changed everything. Zefkar called Lisa to his private chambers for another meeting, but this time his manner was different. He seemed troubled and uncertain. Captain Morgan, I have been thinking about our conversations and about things the elf prisoner Lirale has said to me, Zefker began. Tell me honestly, do you think there is another way to rule besides through fear? Lisa realized this might be her only chance to reach whatever humanity existed inside the alien. Warlord, there is always another way. Zefker, true leadership comes from inspiring others to follow you willingly, not forcing them to obey. Through Terra, Zefker was quiet for several minutes, staring out at the approaching planet. Then he said something that shocked Lisa. I was not born a warlord, Captain. I was born a slave on a conquered world, much like Sylvander. Lisa remained silent, knowing that Zefker needed to tell this story in his own way. Fought and killed my way to freedom, and then fought and killed my way to power. Zefker continued. Every decision I have made has been based on the belief that only the strong survive and the weak exist to serve them. But watching you and your people has made me wonder if I chose the wrong path. Night, while the fleet continued toward Sylvander, Zefker made a decision that would change the fate of millions. He called his senior officers to a meeting and announced a change to the invasion plan. We will not destroy the population centers, Zefker announced. Instead, we will target only military installations and government buildings. The civilian population will be given a chance to surrender peacefully. Sub-Commander Vorth immediately objected. My lord, this is not our way. The other warlords will see this as weakness. Zefkar's eyes blazed with anger as he stared down his subordinate. Are you questioning my judgment? Vorth backed down quickly, but Lisa could see the doubt and resistance in his expression. This change in tactics was creating division among the Kethmori leadership as the fleet prepared to enter orbit around Sylvander. Lisa realized that Zefker was genuinely trying to find a different path, but she also knew that his own officers might not let him follow through. With this new approach, the real test was still coming, and no one could predict how it would end. The moment of truth arrived as the Kethmori fleet entered orbit around Sylvander. The planet below looked even more beautiful from space, with its swirling clouds and green continents, but Lisa Morgan knew that beauty might be destroyed in the next few. HFY stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by his officers and human guests. The invasion was about to begin, but something felt different than previous campaigns. The warlord seemed hesitant and kept looking at Lisa, as if seeking approval for his actions. Sub-Commander Vorth approached his leader. My lord, the fleet is in position and awaiting your orders to begin the bombard. Minsafar nodded slowly, but instead of giving the expected command, he said something that shocked everyone on the bridge. Open a communication channel to the planet. I want to speak with their leaders. First, Vorth's expression showed confusion and concern. My lord, this is highly irregular. We have never offered terms to our enemies before. Nevertheless, those are my orders, Zefker replied, in a tone that ended all discussion. The main screen flickered and showed the interior of what appeared to be a great hall built inside a massive tree. Several elf leaders stood together, looking up at the image of the alien warlord with a mixture of fear and defiance. I am Warlord Zefker of the Kethmori Empire, Zefker announced. Your world is now under our control. However, I am prepared to offer terms that will spare your people unnecessary. Lead elf stepped forward. She was an elderly female, with long white hair and wise eyes that showed no fear, despite the hopeless situation. I am Elder Council Leader Aaron Silverleaf. We know your reputation, Soul Render. What terms could you possibly offer that we would accept? Zefker paused for a moment, glancing again at Lisa, before continuing. Surrender your military forces and accept Kethmori authority over your world. In exchange, your people will be allowed to continue their lives with minimal interference. The elf leaders whispered among themselves in surprise. This was not what they expected from the monster who had destroyed so many other worlds. Zelder Aaron looked directly at Zefker through the screen. And what guarantee do we have that you will honor these terms? You have my word, as a warrior, Zefker replied. Me Brooks watched this exchange with growing amazement. The alien warlord really was trying to find a peaceful solution, but she also noticed the angry expressions on many of the Kethmeri officers' faces. They clearly did not approve of their leaders' new approached. Suddenly the communication was interrupted by weapons fire. The screen went dark as something attacked the elf communication center on the planet's surface. Vorth turned to face Zefker with a satisfied expression. My lord, it appears some of our more eager captains have begun the bombardment without waiting for orders. Lisa realized immediately what had happened. Vorth had ordered the attack himself to force Zefker back into the old pattern of destruction and conquest. Now, the warlord would have to choose between his new path and maintaining control of his own forces. Shefkar's eyes blazed with fury as he stared at his second-in-command. You gave orders to fire without my permission. Vorth stood straighter and spoke in a voice loud enough for everyone on the bridge to hear. I gave the orders that our empire expects a true Kethmori warlord does not negotiate with inferior species. The tension on the bridge became almost unbearable as every officer waited to see how their leader would respond. Lisa held her breath, knowing that the next few moments would determine the fate of millions. Shefkar walked slowly toward Vorth until he stood directly in front of the smaller alien. Then, in a voice filled with cold rage, he spoke words that changed everything. You are relieved of duty. Vorth, you are also under arrest for disobeying direct orders, but instead of accepting this punishment, Vorth pulled out his weapon and pointed it at Zefker. My lord, you have been corrupted by these weak human ideas. It is time for new leadership before anyone could react. Vorth fired at Zefker, but the larger alien was faster than expected. Zefker dodged the energy blast and struck Vorth with 2 of his 6 arms, sending the traitor flying across the bridge. The bridge erupted into chaos as officers chose sides. Some supported Zefker, while others joined Vorth's rebellion. Lisa and Amy found themselves in the middle of an alien civil war. Sivkar roared above the noise. All ships, this is your warlord. Any vessel that continues the bombardment of Sylvander without my direct orders will be considered mutinous and will be destroyed. This command split the fleet. Some ships immediately stopped firing and waited for new orders, but others continued their attack on the planet below, showing that they supported Vorth's rebellion. Lisa realized that Zefker needed help to regain control of his fleet. She turned to Amy. We have to get back to our ship and contact Sylvander. The elves need to know that not all of the Kethmori forces are their enemies. Meanwhile, in the prison section of the ship Mira, Starweaver and the other elf captives felt the ship shake from weapons fire. They could hear the sounds of fighting in the corridors outside their cells. The guards who normally watched them had abandoned their posts to join the battle raging throughout the ship. This was the chance they had been waiting for. Mira used the tools Amy had secretly provided to break open their cell locks. Within minutes, all the elf prisoners were free and moving through the ship, trying to find a way to escape or help their people on the planet below. Lirale Moonwhisper led a group toward the shuttle bay, hoping to steal a small ship and warn Sylvander about the division in the Kethmari fleet. But as they moved through the corridors, they encountered groups of Kethmari soldiers fighting each other. The ship was tearing itself apart as the civil war intensified. Some areas were controlled by Zefker's loyal forces, while others had fallen to Vorth's rebels. The elf prisoners found themselves caught in the middle of battles between different alien factions. Back on the bridge, Zefker was fighting desperately to maintain control. His loyal officers formed a defensive circle around him while Vorth's supporters tried to capture or kill their former leader. During the battle, Zefker found himself fighting beside Lisa and Amy. The 3 unlikely allies worked together to hold the bridge against the rebels. Lisa fired her weapon at attacking Kethmori, while shouting to Zefker, "We need to get to our ship and coordinate a defense of Sylvander's." Nodded, while using all 6 arms to fight multiple opponents at once. You are right, Captain. The planet's safety is more important than my personal survival. At that moment, the ship shuddered as several of the mutinous vessels in the fleet turned their weapons on Zefker's flagship. The warlord, who had tried to choose a path of mercy, now found himself under attack by his own forces. His explosions rocked the ship, and systems began failing. Lisa realized that Zefker's attempt to change had created something neither of them expected. The Soul Render had become the protector of those he once hunted, and now both species depended on his survival. The battle for Zefkar's flagship raged for 3 hours as loyal and rebel forces fought throughout the massive warship. Lisa Morgan and Amy Brooks had managed to reach their shuttle and return to the Stellar Dawn, which now found itself in the middle of an alien civil war. Lisa stood on her bridge watching the chaos unfold around Sylvander. Half of the Kethmori fleet was firing on the other half, while the planet below tried to organize its defenses against whoever won the battle. Amy worked frantically at the communication station, trying to establish contact with both the elf homeworld and any Kethmori ships that might still be loyal to Zefkar. Captain, Amy called out, "I have Elder Aaron on the main screen." The elderly elf leader appeared, looking exhausted and worried. "Captain Morgan, what is happening up there? We can see ships fighting each other, but we do not understand why." Lisa quickly explained, "Zefkar tried to spare your world and offer peaceful terms, but his own officers rebelled against him. Some of his fleet is still attacking you, but others are trying to protect you." Elder Aaron looked shocked. "The Soul Render tried to protect us. Why would he do such a thing? Because humans showed him that there is another way to live." Lisa replied, "Now, we need to work together to stop the ships that are still bombing your planet." Touring this conversation, Lirelei, Moonwhisper, and the other freed elf prisoners had fought their way to Zefkar's location. Deep inside his damaged flagship, they found the alien warlord badly wounded, but still fighting alongside his remaining loyal troops. Mira Starweaver looked at Lirelei with concern in her eyes. "Princess, why are we helping the monster who enslaved you?" Slay watched Zefkar using 2 of his arms to hold pressure on a bleeding wound while still directing his forces with the other 4. "He is not the same being who captured us, Mira. He has changed, and now he fights to save our world." The elf princess made a decision that surprised everyone, including herself. She stepped forward and began treating Zefkar's wounds using medical knowledge learned during her captivities. Zefkar looked down at her in amazement. "Why do you help me after everything I have done to you and your people?" "Because you chose to be better than what you were," Lirelei replied, as she worked to stop his bleeding, "and because our world needs you to survive long enough to stop those ships." The turning point came when Amy managed to establish communication between the Stellar Dawn, Zefkar's flagship, and the elf defense forces on Sylvander. For the first time in galactic history, 3 different species were coordinating their military efforts against a common enemy. Elder Aaron's voice came through the communication system clearly. "Our orbital defense platforms can target the rebel ships, but we need someone to identify which vessels are hostile." Zefkar, weak but determined, provided the identification codes for every ship in his fleet. Lisa coordinated the combined attack as human elf and loyal Kethmori forces worked together. The battle turned quickly once the defenders could tell friend from enemy. The rebel ships found themselves outnumbered and outgunned as planetary defenses, loyal Kethmori vessels, and the Stellar Dawn focused their fire on Vorth's forces. Subcommander Vorth's ship was the last to surrender. After his shields failed and his weapons were destroyed, he sent one final message to Zefkar: "You have doomed the Kethmori Empire by showing weakness to our enemies." Vorth transmitted from his crippled vessel, "Other warlords will see what you have done here, and they will come for you." Zefkar struggled to stand, despite his injuries, then replied in a voice that carried across all communication channels, "Let them come. I am no longer the Soul Render. I am something new, and I will protect any world that chooses peace over conquest." 3 days later, representatives from all 3 species met in the Great Hall of Sylvander's capital city. The meeting took place inside a massive tree that had been growing for over 1,000 years. Its living walls seemed to symbolize the possibility of different forms of life coexisting peacefully. Zefkar sat across from Elder Aaron and Captain Morgan. The alien warlord looked different somehow, less threatening, despite his massive size and 6 arms. His yellow eyes held something that had never been there before. Elder Aaron spoke first. "Zefkar of the Kethmori, you have done terrible things. Too many worlds and many peoples. Nothing can change That his stories Zefkar nodded slowly. I know this, Elder. I do not ask for forgiveness, because I do not deserve it. I only ask for the chance to prevent others from following the path I chose. Lisa leaned forward. What are you proposing? Zefkar's former warlord looked at both women before answering. I propose an alliance between our three species. Human wisdom, elf, knowledge of living in harmony, and reformed Kethmari, military strength. Together we can defend against the other warlords, who will certainly come to punish my betrayal of their ways. Zamie Brooks, who had been listening from nearby, stepped forward. And what guarantee do we have that you will not return to your old ways when the fighting starts? Zefkar gestured to Lirale, who sat beside Mira at another table. The elf princess has agreed to serve as an advisor to ensure that Kethmari forces under my command follow the new rules of engagement. We are establishing. Glalie stood and addressed the gathering. We elves believe in redemption through action, not just words. Zefkar has proven his commitment by sacrificing his empire to save our world. Now he must prove it can last. Elder Aaron nodded thoughtfully. Then let us establish the tripartite council, with representatives from all three species. We will create new laws that protect the innocent and punish those who make war on peaceful world. 6 months later, Zefkar stood on the observation deck of a new type of ship, designed by combining human technology, elf, environmental knowledge, and Kethmari engineering. The vessel was both powerful and beautiful, representing what their alliance could accomplish. Lisa Morgan joined him at the viewing port. They were traveling to another star system where reports suggested a Kethmari warlord was preparing to attack a defenseless colony. You know they still call you the monsters, Zefkar, Lisa said. Quiet. Lizafar smiled, a expression that looked strange on his reptilian features. Good, let them. I was a monster once, and I understand how monsters think. That knowledge will help me stop them. Through the viewing port they could see other ships in their small fleet. Human vessels with their clean lines, elf ships that looked like they had been grown rather than built, and reformed Kethmari warships that now carried the symbol of the tripartite council. Amy Brooks appeared on the observation deck, holding a datapad. Captain, we will reach the threatened system in 4 hours. The colonists have been warned and are preparing their defenses. Zefkar turned from the viewing port. You see, Captain Morgan, your species has taught us all something valuable. Individual strength means nothing compared to what different peoples can accomplish when they work together. Lisa nodded as she watched the stars ahead. The monster who had once destroyed worlds was now their guardian against other monsters, and perhaps that was the greatest victory humanity could achieve in the vastness of space. The ship continued toward its destination, carrying hope to those who needed protection and carrying justice to those who would harm the innocent. The alliance between human elf and reformed Kethmari had become something none of them expected, a new kind of family among the stars.